So I'm just walking through Taylor Square in Sydney, which is pretty much the gay capital of Sydney. And who should be here but Chris Elston, the Canadian campaigner, better known as Billboard Chris, who travels the world trying to convince people that puberty blockers and gender-affirming surgery is not a good idea to impose on children. Let's see how he's going. Okay, so Chris, what sort of a reception are you getting from Australians about your campaign to stop transing the kids?
So Australia is interesting. Everywhere I go, I get a lot of support, but I think Australia is definitely more woke than Canada. In past experience, when I was here, and again this trip, I specifically see more men having an issue with me. Back home, almost no men have any problem with me at all. And I'm getting a bit more pushback from men here than I normally would anywhere else, because I just think wokeness has generally infected this population a little bit more.
Well, that's terrible to hear. It's something that we observe a lot. You travel the world discussing and debating this topic. What are the social and sort of cultural preconditions for transgenderism to take hold?
So this is primarily affecting children who are on the autism spectrum, children with other mental health comorbidities. We know from the Gender Identity Development Service in the UK that 70% of the kids had 5 or more coexisting mental health comorbidities. So that's the main thing. It's autism. It's a lot of kids who would grow up to be gay, which is one of the reasons I once in a while come to these gay districts, because this is where we need to have these conversations. I get way more hate here than I will anywhere else, but that's okay. People don't need to like me. They do need to have these conversations.
They do. But I mean, sometimes kids who are transing they're just having trouble about accepting that they're gay. I mean, shouldn't you get more sympathy around here?
Well, they should. And I don't call kids gay or straight or anything. I don't attach sexuality to children. They're just kids. But what I think happens, and I've seen this in many interviews I've had with gay men in particular, is they had a tough time growing up. They were bullied, they were different, they were effeminate, and they grew up and they're gay. These kids today who say they're trans, well, a lot of them would just grow up to be gay. They're also, for the boys, they're more effeminate, they're different, they're getting bullied. And so these men kind of project onto these kids what they went through. And it's like, leave them alone, is their opinion. But they don't take the next step in logical thinking, which is, well, maybe these kids are going to grow up to be just like me, a gay man. And instead, now they're pushing them in the direction to sterilizing themselves, going on puberty blockers, not developing. I'm sure they're glad that didn't happen to them, but they just haven't thought about it enough. So we need to have these conversations.
So Chris hung around in Taylor Square for about half an hour afterwards, and he was mostly ignored during that time, which in itself was a sad thing. It was a balmy, late summer Friday night in Sydney and everyone was just out having a good time. But the issue of transing children never goes away, and you have to admire Chris for putting it in people's faces the way he does. A few people stopped to have a chat. It was mostly civil. A couple of people in typical style petulantly walked past abusing him, and for the rest of the time he just walked around quietly. Of course, Chris comes armed with enough knowledge to win any conversation. He can stop anyone on the street and challenge them to a conversation on this topic and know that he will win. But that doesn't diminish how much courage it takes for him to do what he does. Full credit to him. If you're interested in more, follow him on X, Billboard Chris.